Hey class, Mr. Miles here, and today I'm going to guide you through practicing if statements in a spreadsheet. So the first thing you'll need to do, if you haven't already, is go ahead and download and open this file. Now this file is located in Canvas, or it has been provided for you. And once you get it open, we'll begin. Now the first thing it says that we need to do after opening the file is to use the fill series tool to input employee numbers in column A. Now, if you go to your spreadsheet, you'll notice that we have one employee number, but we have to also fill it in for the rest of the employees. And so to do that, we're going to select the one employee number that we have, and we're going to drag down to the bottom of our spreadsheet. We're going to go to editing. We want to select fill and select series. All right, this is going to be a series in columns, linear type, and it's going to increase by one for each particular employee. So select that, and you'll notice that it fills in all the numbers for us. Next, step 3 says to insert a new column in front of hours worked, and we're going to label it overtime rate. So let's find the hours worked column. That's column E, and we're going to insert a column there. And we're going to label it overtime rate. We're going to make some adjustments to our column width. And there you have it. We also want to make sure that the text is bold, centered, and that the text is wrapped. And now let's enter a formula. So in step 4, it says in cell E4, enter a formula to calculate overtime rate. And that's going to be equal to the hourly rate times 1.5. And we're going to copy this formula to the rest of the cells. So to copy it, you want to select the cell, and you'll notice a small green square in the bottom right corner. So we're going to click that. We're going to drag it all the way down, and we're going to copy it to the remaining cells. Step 6 says that we're going to insert a new column before regular pay, and we're going to label it overtime hours. So let's find our regular pay column, and we're going to insert a column before it. And this column is going to be labeled overtime hours. All right, going to make some adjustments to the width. It is also formatted like the other labels, bold, centered, and the text is wrapped. Next, step 6 says that we're going to insert a column before overtime hours, and we're going to label it regular hours. So right before overtime hours, we're going to insert that new column, and we're going to label this regular hours, just like that. And it is also formatted like the other labels. Now in column F, it says that we're going to do something funky. It says change all occurrences of 40 to 45. All right, so in column F, we're going to select all of these values here. Or better yet, let's do it this way. So press Control F, and you want to select replace. And it says that we're going to change all occurrences of 40, and we're going to replace them with 45. All right, and we're going to select replace all. And you'll notice it made 14 changes. And that's that. All right, so wherever there was the number 40 in column F, we made those changes. Step 9 says in cell G4, which is the regular hours column, we're going to enter our first if statement. So our first if statement is going to read this way. So if hours worked is less than or equal to 40, we want whatever that value is in the hours worked cell to appear. But if it is greater, just enter 40. All right, I know that was a mouthful, so let me explain. So this cell is going to be equal to, and we're going to use the if statement. So basically, if the hours worked, which is 35 hours, is less than or equal to 40, we're going to put a comma there. That's the first part. So if the hours worked is less than or equal to 40, we want to put the value of that cell there. All right. And for example, F4 is less than 40. But if it wasn't, we would just put 40 hours. And I'm maybe that isn't sinking in with some of you. But once we press enter, it should just give us whatever that value is in F4. All right. And that is because F4 is less than 40. Now, if it was greater than 40, it would only give us 40. So we're going to press enter. So let's do that one more time so that it clicks. So equals if. Now, if the hours worked, so we're going to select that cell. So the hours worked is equal to 38. So if it is less than or equal to 40, in which it is, we're just going to keep that number the same. So we're going to select that cell again. But if it is greater than 40, if it is greater than 40, just put 40. But since it's less than 40, it's just going to keep the same number of 38. Should we do it one more time? So it's like if this, then this, or else do this. So equals if the hours worked is less than or equal to 40, then do this. Keep it the same. But if it isn't and it's greater than 40, just make it 40. All right, hopefully that helps. All right, and what we can do is we're just going to copy this formula to the remaining cells. Going to copy that formula to the remaining cells. Next, it says in cell H4, we're going to do that if statement formula again, but it's going to be a little modified. So it's going to look like this. Equals if, this time, if the hours worked is greater than or equal to 40. So if it's greater than or equal to 40, we want to perform a calculation. And that calculation is going to be the hours worked minus 40. All right, so if it's greater than or equal to 40, do this calculation here for us. But if it isn't, just put 0. All right, and that is because overtime is anything over 40 hours. So we're basically separating the regular hours and the overtime hours. Now in the column F, we have the total amount of hours, but we're separating the overtime hours from it. So you'll notice here in this cell, there is no overtime. There won't be any overtime unless it's over 40. So let's try it with someone who has worked overtime. So for example, this person here. So equals if, all right, and it's the hours worked. If the hours worked is greater than or equal to 40. So if it's greater than or equal to 40, then we want to perform this equation. And that equation is going to be the hours worked minus 40. And we'll see that the hours worked here is 45. And if we're subtracting it by 40, then that's going to leave us with 5 overtime hours. But if it isn't, we're just going to put 0, which means that person did not have overtime. All right, and we're just going to copy this formula to the remaining cells. Moving on to step 11. It says in I4, calculate regular pay. And that's a simple equation. So that's the hourly rate times the regular hours. That's going to be equal to the hourly rate times regular hours. And we're just going to copy that down. All right, so these dollar amounts here are not including the overtime hours, but we're going to get to that. All right, in J3, so we're creating a new column. So in J3, it says that we're going to create an overtime pay. Overtime pay. And you'll notice it formatted that for us. All right, but that is a little funky looking, so let's fix it. In J4, we're going to enter a formula to calculate the overtime pay. Now, the overtime pay is equal to the overtime rate and the overtime hours. So it's equal to the overtime rate times the overtime hours. And not everyone has overtime hours, so some people are going to end up with 0. But those that do, we're going to get a value for them. So copy this all the way down. All right, and we also need to format that column. So let's go ahead and do that now. So we're going to format it as currency. All right, so find that $sign. And we also need to add the grid lines to this particular label here. And it only has a grid line around the outside of it. So I'm going to put one on the top, on the left, and the bottom. And all of the values will have all the borders, just like that. All right, next, it says in K3, enter a label, gross pay. All right, so we're adding to it. So gross pay. All right, and it formats it for us. We didn't have to do that. It may do the same thing for you. All right, now the gross pay, we're going to calculate it by adding regular pay and overtime pay. So we're going to press equals. We're going to add regular pay plus overtime pay. All right, some people have the overtime pay, some people don't. And we're just going to copy that formula all the way down. You'll notice that some of our values are unseen, so we just have to adjust the width of that column. And we'll go ahead and give it its grid lines while it's selected, and add the grid lines to the label. So the bottom, the top, and the right. All right, in cell L3, we're going to create another label. All right, and this is going to say, this one's pretty long, FICA taxes due to IRS. And in parentheses, we're going to type 7.65%. Now, all businesses have to pay these taxes to the IRS. All businesses have to pay these taxes to the IRS. And if you don't know what FICA taxes are, it's basically Social Security and Medicare. Those are living expenses for seniors. And us as employees, we pay into that for the current and future generations. So whenever you become a senior, which is I think it's 65 or greater, yeah, you're considered a senior at 65, maybe 67. You're able to get basically free health care in a sense, and you can collect a paycheck without having to work. So that's what Social Security and Medicare is. And for some strange reason, it made this row really tall. I think I know why. Okay, I fixed it. Cool. All right, so this equation is going to look like this. And it's just a percentage of the gross pay. It's just a percentage of the gross pay. So it's multiplying the gross pay by 7.65%. So that's equal to gross pay times, and since it is a percentage, we have to put it as a decimal. So that's going to be 0.0765. Press enter. All right, we got too many decimal places there. So we can dial that back a notch here in a moment. But let's copy this for everyone. Okay. All right, it fixed it. We can add our grid lines. So the first thing I'll do is I'll clear them so that we can get rid of that line there. And we're just going to add it to the top, the right, and the bottom. And all the other values will get the all borders. All right, next, it says check the spreadsheet to make sure all the cells are formatted correctly. All right, it says the data in columns I through L should have grid lines, and we've done that. Step 19, in cell L31, create a function to calculate a total expense, total payroll expense. Total payroll expense. So that's actually, we'll just say O31. We're going to calculate that. O31. For some reason, it kind of shifted a little bit. Oh. So to calculate the total payroll expense, it's going to be equal to, and it says it's going to be the sum of all of the gross pay and all of the FICA taxes. So equals sum, and in parentheses, we're going to put the entire cell range of the gross pay, and we're going to separate it by a comma, and the entire cell range of the FICA taxes, just like that. And we're going to close our parentheses and press enter. And what I could do, let's move on to step 20. So in step 20, it says to sort the spreadsheet in descending order by gross pay. So sort it into descending order by gross pay. All right, so if we select all of our gross pay amounts and we come to the editing section, and we're going to sort it in descending order. So that means from greatest to least. So largest to smallest. All right, so let's try that again. We're going to select all of our gross pay amounts. We're going to sort from largest to smallest. Expand selection. All right, and there we have it. Now from here, there's a couple questions that you'll have to answer. So since we have it sorted in descending order, we should be able to see who the top 3 earners are. And you're going to record these answers in cells L31, M31, and N31. Okay, just moving some stuff over so that it makes sense to you. All right, so you're going to put those 3 answers in M, N, M, N, and O, 31. Well, actually, no, that was correct. L, M, O. Control Z. All right, so once you've all answered who the top 3 earners are after sorting, let's figure out how to calculate the average hourly rate. All right, now to do that, we're just going to press enter. You can type the word average and select that function. And we're just going to select all of the hourly rates. And then you can press enter. It's going to give you that value. You're going to do the same thing for the other responses. So I'll show you one more time. So that'll be equal to average. All right, and this one, we're trying to find the average hours worked. And we just select all of the hours worked, press enter, and there we are. All right. That does not need to be bold, by the way. And you're going to do the same thing for the overtime hours and the gross pay. And that will conclude the if statements guided practice. See you next time.